Hey y'all, today we're talking about where the Psalms come from. If you ask the question, who wrote the Psalms, the most common answer would be, well, David, right? We just kind of assume that all of them come from him. But if you look a little closer, I think we see that there's a lot more going on to how this book came together. Now, just a few terms to get out of the way, things that my personal pet peeves. When you're talking about a singular psalm, you just say psalm, right? Don't say Psalms 23 because there's only one of them in that case. Sometimes people use the word the Psalter to refer to the whole collection, and then we can say psalmist for the author. If we just kind of look at some of the details in the Psalms, is that it's really a collection of collections. There's sometimes Psalms get repeated. There are many series like the Psalms of Ascents from 120 to 134. And it seems like whoever put this book together did so intentionally. There's an organization to it. There's 5 books of the Psalms, which always end with a doxology, this big praise of God. And that probably mirrors the 5 books of the law. And the beginning psalm, as we talked about last week, and I think also the ending psalm, are intentional. The book ends with just this massive praise in 150. We also notice that if we look more broadly at them, that the first 3 books have more lament and the last 2 books have more praise. So there's kind of a movement towards praise from lament across the entire Psalter. And in fact, we also see more references to the king and the temple in the early books. And so this is probably organized later after those things weren't around anymore. And so they're kind of making praise in spite of what this nation has lost. So you think about the dates, right? David goes back to about 1000 BC. There are Psalms that refer to the exile in 587. There are Psalms that seem to be after they returned from exile. And so there's at least 500 years that the Psalms span, but probably longer. And obviously they were collected and finalized at some point after that. Okay, so who wrote them? Now, sometimes the Psalms will have a little heading in that. We don't know if those were written at the same time as, when the Psalm was written. And some are attributed to Solomon or Moses or the sons of Korah. At least 50 are anonymous. But as we mentioned at the start, 73 are called Psalms of David, at least in English translations. Now, the Hebrew preposition there actually is more often translated as to or for, rather than not of or by. So this is a psalm for David, maybe. So what that could imply is ownership, not necessarily authorship, although it doesn't exclude it. And there's also evidence that some psalms were written by women and men. Okay, so this is a lot of boring details. What does this mean for us? Well, it means that the Psalms are a collection that comes from a community of faith across centuries. We are hearing the way that a group of people across time has had to wrestle with their relationship with God and the ups and downs that they experienced as a community and as individuals. I think that is more meaningful than assuming that it just comes from one guy's single perspective, that one person could get praise and lament right and we just copy him. There are so many perspectives on how we relate to God, and we need to hear that as a community. And so that's what we have in Scripture. We have the prayers of a community so that we as a community can also pray together.